Wonderful. Well, it looks like we got a good crew here, so we'll get started. And just as a reminder, we are recording this, so if any of your colleagues or teammates need to get a hold of this, we're going to be sending it out after the demo today. But we really appreciate everyone being here and your starting interest in Skill ID. We're excited to introduce one of my favorite colleagues and our lead engineer on this tool. He will be helping out today, answering some questions and just being available to add some tidbits along the way. And he's the genius and the coding horsepower behind this awesome product. And so really excited to have Adam Parker with me today. And I am Mark Hansen, so I'm the product owner of Skill ID, and just been wonderful experience over the last couple of years putting together this product and doing tons of customer research. And surprisingly enough, I was actually an MZ customer for 5 years before joining MZ. And so I was a practitioner using MZ data, MZ tools for a long time in my role at United Health Group, where I helped lead the people analytics team there. And so just been a joy to work with MZ the last few years as a customer, and then even better to join on their team and be able to build some cool products with some awesome data. And so Adam, I don't know if you want to just jump in and do a brief intro, but Adam has been kind of a leader in the HR tech space for a long time and has built some awesome HR tools. And so we were very lucky to snag him and pull him through over to the MZ side to be able to work on this product. So Adam, if you want to say a couple words just to kick us off here.
Yeah, just really appreciate you all taking the time. I hope we've built a product that you really enjoy, and it's been a real awesome opportunity to try to remove some barriers. So hopefully you guys will feel the same way, and I'll be here available for any questions, and hope to talk to more of you soon. So thanks, Mark.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'll get my screen share going here. Great. Let me log over to our presentation here. Everybody see my screen okay?
Yes.
See it down here? Awesome. Well, good. Yeah. So we want to start off, just a quick little introduction into what the tool is. We're going to do a quick product over here with some slides, why we built it, what are we hearing from the market, and then we'll jump in to do a quick demo of the tool, and then we'll be doing some Q&A. So please, as you're following along here, type any questions you have in the chat, and our awesome marketing team will be in the background kind of organizing those, and we'll try to get through as many as we can towards the end of the demo today to answer these live, and any that we don't get to, we will be reaching out personally to pull those together and answer those as we go. So yeah, please don't be shy, and happy to get everything taken care of as much as we can today. So Skill ID, the background of this really comes from one of our good friends and partners, Josh Burson, and all the work that he's been doing in just the crazy world of skills that we're living in right now. Every company has some issues with tracking skills, gathering skills, identifying skills, and how do we just tackle that problem, and what are companies trying to do with this? And so we love this quote from Josh from one of his recent presentations of all companies need these systems that continue to identify, organize, and arrange the skills that drive success, so they can develop the skills of the future. And that's really kind of one of the core concepts that we focused on in building this tool, is really helping companies identify skills, and could we be using some of our awesome labor market data to help drive a good experience to do that quickly and efficiently, because companies are just typically struggle with this because it's a very manual effort to be looking through all of your jobs, looking through resumes and online profiles of your employees, and learning curriculum, and how do we piece all of this together to come up with a cohesive strategy. So taking the cue from Josh and really focusing on how do we create a platform or a system that can help us do this within our company in a very easy way. And so really the core of what Skill ID is creating actionable skill profiles for your roles. And a lot of people ask us, why did you start with roles? Why didn't we focus on kind of the employee base? And really it comes down to, where do you have the best data? Right now, all companies have HRS systems, HMS systems that are tracking all of their employee data, all of their job data, their structured data, location data, everything is packaged in there. And so we said, hey, if we can start comprehensively looking at all the roles within an org and saying what are the skills needed for that, and we're able to use our comprehensive labor market data to help drive insights, because we have millions of job postings that we are scraping nightly, and so we have this pulse on the market of what is that near-term demand for jobs, and what are the job titles that companies are using, what are the skills that they're using, and how are they associated, as well as millions of profiles that we've been able to gather through resumes, through online profiles, to say what are people using on their resumes and online profiles in terms of titles and what skills are associated with them. And so we just have this wealth of data sitting there, and say we can make a lot of great inferences on what skills are attached to the roles within your org by being able to connect that up. And we'll go through in a little bit here of how we do that by normalizing job titles, but really the goal is to get a skill profile that actually can be updated easily. It's easy to understand when you're starting to compare roles, and it adds a huge enhancement to your current job profiles that are in the systems today. And so we're excited to be able to share kind of where we're heading with this product, and what we can do. And so we're trying to expand on all the things that we're learning in the market with how do we enhance our job information to understand skills, to understand what skills should be in those roles. And it's a perfect starting point as we append this data onto job descriptions, because we can get that comprehensive view, and we can also then look at the employees that are sitting in those roles to say, do you have these skills? And so we start with the core data first to be able to unlock that internal job data, apply some awesome skill data to those roles, and that gives you that comparator, or that starting point, so that you can benchmark from that to look at your people, to look at your competitors, to look at different regions you're operating in. And we created a nice slick way to do that quickly and easily. And most importantly, we need to customize, because not every company fits the same mold. We all have unique roles within our businesses, and we need to be able to customize that, and most importantly, be able to pull that data out to integrate it with our internal data. And so our goal here is not to replace any data that are in the systems, but to use that core data and append it with some awesome skill data from the labor market that we can be tracking and identifying those key skills in our roles. The other nice thing about our skill library is we've open sourced it, and so most of you have heard all the announcements. We've had that out for over a year now, and it's been very welcomed in the marketplace to finally have a common language, because every single system is using a little bit different skill library language, and not everything talks to each other. And so we're hoping to become that standard in the marketplace, to where we can provide that common language and that common connection. And the huge benefit of our skill library is that every single term is connected to all of our labor market data ecosystem. So all of that skill data has context and has meaning with how it's being used in the market, either from what companies are looking for in job postings, or how people are using that on their online profiles and resumes. And so that's the core of what Skill ID is doing there. And some people ask us, what is a skill profile? And really, it's just an extension of your job description, whereas traditional job descriptions are, paragraphs describing what this particular job does. They're usually pretty vague because it's encompassing a lot of different factors. It's usually accompanied by competency frameworks. A lot of the bigger companies and medium-sized companies will use competency frameworks, but a lot of those competency terms are really behavior-based, and they're not as granular into what is the day-to-day work that's being done on that job. And so we see skills as these terms that describe the work and the value that role is doing to satisfy that for what the company needs in the context of where that job is being used. And so we have heard from lots of companies to say that it's hard to update job descriptions in those paragraphs, and the competency frameworks are really hard to adjust as well, because those are pretty set in stone. We need something a little bit more dynamic, something that's easy to update, something that's easy to compare. And how do we have something consistent that we can show across all of our benchmarking to our competitors in different regions or industries that we're operating in? And it also allows for measurement, so we can measure the skill overlap and gaps between roles, and then any downstream data that we want to compare that against. So it gives you this nice description layer as an enhancement to your traditional job postings, or to job descriptions. So as I said before, the core value of this is immediate skill profiles for all your roles, and we start by doing job title normalization to unlock the data of MZ's data ecosystem so that we can apply a good starting skill profile for all the roles. And they're connected across all of the labor market so that we can see the context for that, and we can also compare the context of how you're using those skills as well as what your benchmark is doing as well. And the downstream impact is really helping optimize job postings for your talent acquisition team. How do you create consistency around skills? How do we look at the role comparisons and internal recruitment opportunities for different skills we have internally, and reskilling opportunities for our employee development side, looking at even just role planning and how do we see the differences between roles and how do we focus what's needed for each of those roles, and then teeing us up really nicely for who is in those roles and what skills are they bringing, and how do we have an established agreed upon skill profile that we can measure our employees against for that upskilling and reskilling opportunities. And should we create new roles, should we combine roles? It really helps with that job planning and some of that workforce planning that happens there. So happy to answer more questions around that, but that's the core value of where we're heading and why we built this tool. And it's really 3 easy steps. We grab your internal data, and we'll show an example of this in the demo. We translate that to MZ's open title library, as well as the government occupation code that's most popularly used, and that unlocks a lot of differentiated value in terms of connecting not only to the MZ data ecosystem, but also to the government data through the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Census Bureau, Office of Management and Budget, all of those awesome data sources. So we're connecting a couple different ways to make it as robust as possible. And then we're doing opportunity for analysis and refining those roles to customize to what is the unique skill profile of how you see that role fitting within your company, and then being able to connect all of this data back to your internal system so that it can drive the most usefulness from reporting out of your HRS system and your learning and development teams, talent acquisition teams, so that we can put that data to work. So this is truly a platform that enhances your data. It takes that core data, connects it back to the external labor market with some awesome insight, and then it pulls it back into your internal systems. And everybody asks, what is the power of this, normalization process, not only for skills, but what are the other things that can be attached to this? And so we always say normalizing unlocks your data. And so we take a simple input, whether, it's your job descriptions, your job postings, the titles, we're able to parse and normalize to a standard set of skills that's connected across our ecosystem, our job title library, which we just opened up a couple of weeks ago, and then connecting you to any labor market data that you want to look at. So it really does connect and enhance your data for further analysis for where we want to go for recruitment, for site selection, all of those fun things. And I'll briefly touch on the ROI before we jump into the tool. So really, the traditional methods of really, how do we attach and identify skills to put on our roles? It was really limited where you had resources available. You needed several analysts, doing deep, in-depth research around this. A lot of times it's spread throughout Excel sheets, and it gets really messy, and things get mistagged or shifted in the wrong way. So it's cumbersome. Or there's hiring out third parties to do this, and it's usually it's a large investment. It takes months to do. And so we said, how do we improve on all of these different areas to say, let's get centralized storage, let's get things organized and translated over to the right spot. We don't want to force any changes in terms of the core structure of how your data is structured within your company. How do we just append it and be able to do this quickly, and where we could have literally one person working on this if we really had to, where all of our resources are stretched these days as things have shifted around. This will allow kind of anybody to jump into this platform and start getting value from day one. So let's jump over to the tool really quickly, and I'll show you the core of where do we start with all this. So it starts with your internal data. doing a flat file download out of your HRS system that has a lot of the core data fields. Really, the only thing we need is a job code and a job title. That's the most basic for what we need to start normalizing. But as you have job family and function and description language, that does help in the translation process. And so as we roll out this tool, we implement this with our consulting team first to do the heavy lifting off the bat, because most companies have anywhere from 500 to 7,000 different job titles within their companies. So we've heard of actually more than that, which is a crazy number of cumbersome roles. So we really focus on how do we pull through the core data out of your system, and then have our consulting team, which has a ton of experience doing job title normalization, and we can do it really quickly and easily. We take that first pass and we'll flag anything that's unique within your company. A lot of times there's some unique abbreviations, or there's maybe some regional or departmental verbiage attached to the job title. So we don't always have that context, but we can get most of the way there and just flag a few that need to be reviewed by the internal experts on your team. And once we have this core data, we're able to jump in and start translating and normalizing those roles to an MZ language, so that we can start to unlock the skill data and that market data that we can attach to your core internal data. And so how that works is, I'll jump over to our role mapping section. Is we basically have a whole bunch of starting job titles that came right out of your system. We pull that through to MZ's job title normalizing API that gives suggestions of which one is the proper match here. Is it more of your data science 2 could be more of a consultant role, or maybe it's the lead data scientist if you only have 2 levels. You kind of know what's best for your particular company, but we always have a starting point. And then we also have options for what is the best SOC code, or the government occupation code, so that we can tag both of these extremely valuable external labels to your data to begin the analysis. And as we go through, you can always flag things that need, maybe approval if there's a one that you're unsure of, or a teammate needs to check it out. There's, again, like I said, we go through this first pass, but at any point you can come back and change how your data is mapped, and if something gets adjusted in the core role, you can always come back and select a different one. And we have about 75,000 MZ titles. We update that every 2 weeks. And like I mentioned before, we open source that, so it's free for anyone to use to help organize some of their system data. We have some awesome partnerships with different HR tech vendors that have adopted our job title library. And we're just seeing some a lot of power coming from having one common language to be used across the market. So we're excited for the traction that that's getting, and just the power of being able to have a robust library to draw from. As you know, the government occupation codes are pretty standard. They haven't changed in a number of years, but that does unlock all of the government data for where that data is tagged. So that's extremely valuable as well. So once we have your titles loaded in, we have the mappings created. One of the things that we do at the setup of this tool is to ask, what is your preference for a skill profile? So some companies have requested just a few core skills, and they want less than 10. Others have said, no, I want 25 because I want to see a robust, skill profile attached to our roles. And where do we want those skills to come from? Should they come from a company-wide benchmark? Should they come from our historical postings, because MZ has likely scraped all of your public postings that you've posted out there. And so once we have this data mapped, it immediately unlocks the core data that we can pull through for skills. So here I'll jump into the example of one that's already been mapped. So all of this is kind of the main landing page where all of the roles will get summarized for what gets loaded into the tool. And then as you jump into the role detail page, we're able to see, what were some of the initial data that was given from the company, what did we map that to in that first step of that process, And then this particular account, we have, kind of some core companies we set up as the global peer benchmark. So looking at some of the big tech firms, Amazon, Apple, Google, and this is what is helping us connect to the benchmark skills coming through job postings, as well as your historical postings, and showing where the different skills are flowing through for these different areas. And so as we can kind of look at the core skill profile of what comes through on all of the different roles, we're able to see what is that starting list of skills that are kind of core to this role. So in this particular instance, we picked the top 10 skills from the benchmark to be used as our starting point for this role. So you can see, things for data engineer, big data, data modeling, ETL, Python, scalability, Hadoop, and then how did it compare to our postings, and did we ever use that skill, or did we only use it sometimes? And as you hover over each of these categories, you can see this is used in about 1% of their postings. This one's used about 4%, but your benchmark list of competitors here is using big data, 48% of the times in their posting, and they're using, computer science, and ETL is being used about 50% of the time. And as you look at this, you might say, oh, there's some of these that are helpful, others might not be as helpful, and so we allow the edit of this benchmark. And kind of doing some plug and play, whether you're creating a custom benchmark or you're coming in to change up and select a different saved benchmark. There's a few different ways that we can do some exploration and really refine, what matters to us. And one of the coolest features that I love is this kind of measurement of related skills. So not only did we miss this ETL skill, but we missed the top 5 related skills as well. And it looks like our benchmark wasn't using them either, but it gives you this quick way to say, if ETL is really important for our data engineers, what are things that we should be thinking about that might be, critical? So obviously data modeling is a close related skill, and we have that one on the profile already. But is data integration important? And we can add that one quickly. We both missed it, but that's, one of the things that our core data team does, or maybe it's data transformation, or specific tools that we should be using. And then as well as looking at, just what's related to scalability. Is there something here that we've been using, but maybe our competitors benchmark hasn't been using? So maybe we're looking at specific data structures, and we want some background in that, and we need to add that. So it allows for this quick add of modifying and refining this particular skill profile. And this is kind of like our checkout cart. Everything that shows up on this page, we can mark things as required, we can delete things, we can move things around, as well as all of this gets locked and tied to this core internal data, the core mapping data in this benchmark, so that we can export out this skill profile and connect it back to our internal system through the job code. So this is again, the tool is pretty straightforward and simple of pulling through. How do we normalize and map you to our external verbiage that we use to connect all of our data points, and then how do we use that data to pull through and be able to quickly change and expand the specific skill profile that we need for our different roles, and then pull that data out and attach it to our system. So all of the data can be pulled through a flat file, through exporting all of that data, or also API access to connect it right into your existing systems and have a regular flow of data. So this is a great tool for multiple teams to go after. A lot of times it's the compensation teams that are managing a lot of the skill profile data, or just the core job data profile, or the core profile data in general. It's sometimes the people analytics teams, there's talent management teams that are working in this. So it's really useful for that centralized effort of being able to customize these roles to what we want to define these roles as that core starting point, and then working with the data teams to pipe this into the systems where we need this data to go to. And one of the kind of nice features towards the end of this journey, after you've gone through some of the saving and the work, is how do we start to look at some of the comparison of our roles? So filtering back to different roles that we might want to research and go after. We can select them. We can jump over to this comparison function and start looking at, let's say we have 3 different versions of web developers. And so we'll just throw in web developer 2, 3, and 4, and just look at, what are the skill differences between these roles, and what's kind of the core overlapping roles, what is maybe unique to this role that might not be used as much in a different role. So, looking at unit testing, but a lot of the core skills are overlapping from maybe the core tools that this web development team is using, React.js or Java, HTML, CSS, and then, going up to kind of that code review, maybe in that level 3 role. And then, as you get more senior, maybe you're adding in more innovation, software design pattern, web application kind of development, kind of more of that functional strategy area, looking at the broader skill set, and how do we develop folks and coach them on how do you get from a web developer 2 level to a 3 to a 4. What are some of the things that you could be focusing on? So really excited to see how this comparison feature helps teams really drill down into the specifics of a job, and helping our talent management team and our learning development teams really recognize what they should be focused on from a skill perspective. So yeah, that is the core functionality for the actually interacting with your roles. And the other section that we have built into the tool is really for day 1 value. So if there's maybe some of your data is not quite mature enough yet to be able to load in, or you're doing some data cleanup, we also have this analytics section where we're able to take all of the core data that MZ has on your company just from our public data scraping from your job postings and employee profiles, and we're able to look at some of the top locations and occupations and titles, and be looking at the skill comparison to any sort of company. So we have some day 1 value before we've normalized anything. This is still in kind of MZ, the government language, and in MZ's title language, but it will allow you to at least get some of that immediate value of, I just need to start somewhere and start drilling in before I've loaded in my core data. This is an awesome resource to look at the employee side, to look at the demand side, or looking at them in comparison. So just wanted to highlight that there's one other analytics section that's not tied to the kind of mapping and normalization of your job titles, but we're able to kind of come back through there.